Thank you for joining CU Bands and Fans podcast. Our podcast is brought to you by Home Grown KIO. Home Grown KIO is on Sunday nights at 7 p.m. It is a stellar show featuring the great songs that have come from bands originating in Champaign-Urbana. Listen at 107.9 on your FM dial, at 1079WKIO.com, or ask Alexa to play WKIO. Hello, it's Terry with CU Bands and Fans podcast, where musicians tell their story. And our guest this evening on our podcast is Mr. Rick Sadowski. And Rick is the owner of Studio 401 Recording out of Georgetown, Illinois. How are you, Rick?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for having me here.
Good. Let's talk about what got you interested in recording? How did this evolve into you having your own studio?
Well, I'm going to date myself now, but in 1966, what's that, 58 years ago?
At least.
We had a little band in junior high school, and we cut a record. And as we did the record, I fell in love with the guy, the procedure of how to do it and what he was getting out of it. And so as the years progressed, that's what started me. And as the years progressed through high school and stuff like that, I ended up working with a lot of my local friends, and we went to different studios and recorded. I did a couple projects over in Champaign at the band Champaign studio that they had.
Yeah.
Of course, that was Mike Day back in the day. I think it was called Creative Audio. There was another studio out west of town. I think it was called Prairie Sound or something like that. Ray Armstrong owned it. And so doing that, and then in 1977, 78, I moved to Bloomington Normal, and my wife at that time was going to school there. And that's when I hooked up with the Golden Voice over in South Peak in Illinois, which was just about a half hour away from where I was at. And they were the ones that really gave me the eye opener to, multi-track recording. They were a state of the art studio back in that time. So went from there and just kept on going. And I met up with a friend of mine from Montreal, Canada. He came down and we started a studio in Fisher, Illinois, and we did a couple of projects there. And then he bailed and went to California, and I came back to I was at Danville at the time anyway. And I opened up my first studio, which was Studio 309, and it was just an 8-track recording. It was all analog, wasn't digital. It was
you are dating yourself there.
Well, there you go. You asked me, I'm telling you. So anyway, we did that for 5 years, from 1985 to 1990. And at 1990, I completely just burned out. I was completely shot with recording because that's all I did. I mean, I was there all the time. It's a wonder I was still married, and my dog still knew what I looked like when I came home and whatnot. So I quit for a while, and all I did was drink beer and play golf for the next couple of years. And I didn't even talk recording, didn't even talk music or anything like that, except with my friend out in California, Chuck. And then in 2000, the bug came across me again. And that's when I had to politely sit down with my wife, tell her that this is what I'd like to do, and can I do it? Of course, I said I started out thinking it was just going to be location recordings and stuff like that, which I had a setup for all of that. And of course, as you've seen in the past, it's all turned into this by now. So we're going full board. But I still did do the remote recording because I worked with the Danville Symphony for 14 years. So
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I got a real eye opener there. I got to work with people from all over they brought in I did all their guest artist performances, and they brought in people from all over the world, and I mean all over the world. Big name artists, classical wise. Um, but I've recorded people from Russia and France and Germany and all that. And some of them came from the Boston Pops, New York Philharmonic, the New York, or I'm sorry, uh, New York Philharmonic, the London Symphony. So and that was a lot of fun doing that. But anyway, so I've done that, and I I recorded all that location wise as well, and then brought it back here to the studio to mix it, and so
Wow.
I did that for 14 years. It was quite a deal when I first met the gentleman who was the conductor and the music director at the time. He he asked me. I told him, I said, I'd sure like to record you guys, and he goes, "Well, that's great. What do you got?" And I told him what I had. Oh, that's great. He says, "What kind of experience do you have?" And I go, "None." And
Oh
he
my
goes,
God.
"Well, what have you recorded?" And I go, "Well, it's mostly rock and roll." And his eyes rolled back in his head, and I just said, "Well, give me a chance and see what happens." And I said, "No big deal. I'm a big boy. I can take it when you tell me to, no, you don't want to use me, or I'm not doing what you wanted, blah, blah, blah." Well, 14 years later, and I was still working for the guy. So we had a lot of fun together. We did a lot of stuff, lot of recording like that. But that's an eye opener. So I've done kind of a gauntlet from bluegrass to to gospel to symphony to rock and roll to country. It's a real privilege that I have the job that I've got, because I can work with all these different people.
Yeah, that's
And
quite the experience in history. That's a
oh,
lot of experience.
well, it's a lot of time. Okay,
Yeah.
I've been around a while, so I guess that's what happened. So, but that's what we did. That's what I've done. So, and I've had here with Studio 401 recording here in Georgetown. When I started that, least, that's been 15 years ago. I'm working on 15 years here at Studio 401. So
Well, congrats.
yeah, well, I've done a lot of people, but done quite a few from the Champaign-Urbana area. And I'm very, very happy with that and very pleased with it. So
Yeah,
there you
because
go.
when I came to see you, you've got a wall full of all of these CDs that you've
Oh,
recorded
yeah. Yeah.
for for local artists. Can you name a few of those that I mean,
Well,
that
well, from the Champaign-Urbana area, there was a first Joe Aslin, excellent guitar player,
oh
excellent
yeah,
artist, and just a generally nice guy. I mean, he's just really good,
he
really nice
recently
person.
moved it to Nashville.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He's given it the big shot, and I've talked to him since then. And anyway, Spectrum, who you are aware of, they're
the
from the
Spectrum's
Villa
awesome.
Grove area. Did their CD for him. Uh, Karen Shipley, Karen.
Yeah,
Uh, that was a fun deal working with her.
Karen was kind of recent, wasn't she?
Well,
Like
no,
a few years ago.
oh, no, that's been 4 or 5 years ago at least, or
Oh,
something like that.
really? Wow,
Time passes so quickly, and I can't
it's
keep track.
crazy.
Yeah, I did the King's Highway CD.
Excellent,
Susan Williams, she's played
excellent.
around over there. I did a blues album for her, and that's been played all over the world. I mean, it's literally all over the world. Um, Colton Taylor, he's a young country artist, really
Up
good
and
kid.
coming, yeah.
Uh, Zach Dabble from Zach Dabble Experience, The Hangovers. You'd had
Yes. Hmm.
a thing with them. I did a thing with Whiskey Bird Dogs. I did their EP with them. Chrissy Sparks, I did a little thing,
Yes.
little something with her. Andy Duncanson, I did 2 tracks, and I was privileged to do 2 tracks with him for his solo project. And within that, Bob Watson played some steel guitar for him.
My God. Yeah.
And that was crazy doing stuff like that. And Josh, gosh, I can't think of his last name, the drummer, Gerklin or something. Please excuse me, Josh. I'm sorry I butchered you up like that, but excellent drummer. Did that. Catch and Hickory, thank you, because
Yes. Catching
they gave
Hickory.
me a
Yes.
lead on them. And Dyke Corson, I've had the privilege of working with Dyke, coming over here several times on other solo projects, and then of course Allison Krauss.
Awesome. So how long ago did you work with Allison?
Oh, that was its 309. I met Allison when she was almost 16 years old. That's how long ago it's been. And she came, I knew her guitar player who lived here in Danville, and he'd been down to my studio. This is 309. This is back when, and so he brought her over one day and introduced me to her. And so I showed her around and everything. And, I kind of felt that there was something there. I didn't know quite what to make of her, but, she's just a little girl, very sweet little thing. And I said, well, did you bring your fiddle, or did you do anything, did you happen to do anything like that? And she says, oh yeah, I got it. And I said, well, let's try something. So the recording that we did was called Wayfaring Stranger. And that was been played at WKIO, the
Homegrown?
homegrown show that they've got. We did that, and to this day, the hair on the back of my neck stands up when I hear it. I mean, it was that good. It was just because of Allison. She was just,
Yeah.
when I met her, like I said, I told her that day, I said, one of these days, girl, I said, you're going to be really, really big. And, oh, Rick, you're full of it, blah, blah, blah. I'm going, just please, just please remember me if I call you and say hi or something. And she has, to this day, we're still friends. And on occasion, it's not a daily deal or a weekly, or it's more like maybe every other 5 years or something like that we get. But when we did the homegrown thing, Dave and Larry came over and they heard Allison's track. And of course, they wanted to play that because she's a local, artist.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I got to talk to Allison before I give it to you. I said, it's, I just can't give out this stuff. And of course, I had to do that with all of the artists that they picked. But I emailed her and got her email, and we text back, or we messaged back and forth for a couple days. But it was, go right ahead, do it. And I'm going, really? I said, it's great. So she let the boys have it over there. And so that's kind of, in a nutshell, where I've kind of been for the last couple of years. So anyway, that's Allison. So
Yeah.
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Obviously you're skilled and talented and, able to mix and do what you're doing. What is your, what is the biggest difference besides the 8-track from the time that you began this to now, the biggest difference in doing what you do?
Well, the tracks, having the availability of tracks is very important, because each individual instrument, or as in the drum kit, let's say the kick, the snare, the toms, the 1, 2, 3 toms, the overheads left and right, the hi-hat, those are all on separate tracks. So I can control the sound of the drums that way. All the instruments are on a separate track. All the vocals are on separate tracks. So I have the ability of blending in that. So I guess your original question was having the tracks available, and of course now today, because of the quality that we've got, the sound issue is back in the day we had to worry about tape hiss. When the tape
Yeah.
recorder turned on, going on,
Yeah.
I had to have noise reduction for all of that. Well, with digital, you don't have to have it. But when I started 401, I really didn't want to go complete digital because I'm as you can tell, I'm old school. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to keep the analog sound in the front end, which gave it the warm baby butt sound. I mean, it's the analog gives it that warm sound, whereas digital is pretty square. It's
Yeah.
pretty harsh. It can be. So I all my front end is analog. Console and all the outboard gear and what have you is analog. But I track to digital, which allows me the capability of cutting and pasting and shifting things in time, and how it is on a computer because of what you could do. So I mean, I'm doing things now today that were completely unheard of back in when I first started back in the day. So it's changed quite a bit in that respect. But,
So it makes things easier,
oh
simpler,
yeah, well, yes,
but it's a
but
lot of work.
well, not only it is work. But all of a sudden, because you have all these other opportunities and all these other things come about, well, that adds more to when you start to mix. Which mixing, I think, is the fun part of recording. I really get excited when we get to the mix point, because that's when we're blending everything together. We're making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and everything's right. And if it's not right, we fix it and what have you. But, today, what we can fix today, we could never have fixed back in the day. I've got a piece of equipment that allows me to auto tune a vocal. So let's say a vocalist that sings and they're out of key or something, I can put them through this machine and bazoom bazam, the next thing I know, they're right on pitch and everything's working and it's all well and good. So that today's technology and the fact that it's given me all these new means of making the end result the best it can possibly be. I mean, it's
And that's what you want.
yeah.
How long does it take you to go from the time they come into the studio to begin recording to the time you have the finished product? And when you have the finished product, do you run that by all of them first for complete approval?
Well, of course. I'm asked that question all the time of what's it going to take, and I'm going, well, how prepared are you? Because they go, oh, we can do it in one take, and I'm going, I've heard that story before where they come in, but coming into the studio is a totally different experience than playing out live, of course, because we hear everything. I mean, everything. We hear when you don't make it in time. We hear when you're out of tune just a little bit. I mean, all these things come about. So how long it takes, that depends upon the artist. Sometimes it goes great. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth. Okay. So it just varies upon the artist, what they've done, how well prepared they are is a big factor. And then, as you said earlier, once it's mixed, I always ask the group or the artist, I want one person here while, if I'm mixing. Sometimes they allow me to go ahead and do the mix. Sometimes they want to be in on it. If they want to be in on it, I say one person only. Because if you get too many chiefs in there, all of a sudden it turns into, oh, I can't hear myself and I can't hear, blah, blah, blah. And it turns into a real cluster,
Yeah.
it's so the mixing part is a lot of fun, and that can take sometimes as long as it took to record it, and sometimes even longer, fixing some of the mistakes that get by you when you're tracking. That you try to we try to make sure that we covered all the bases when we're tracking, but ultimately when we're mixing, that's when you hear everything, and that's when
what's the difference between, so is tracking, you're tracking each individual
right
instrument?
right. Yeah, right. That's when we're laying down all the instruments. Mixing is where when we take all those recordings, all those tracks, all those separate tracks of the drums, the bass, the keyboard, the vocals, the harmonies, and blah 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 guitar, and we start putting them all together. And if we bring them into the stereo, the left and right, and that's when we get the finished product. And of course, if the group allows me to go ahead and mix it, I usually call them in and play everything for them and get their approval. And if there's anything that needs to be changed or anything they don't like, well, we correct it. Make note, correct all of that. But yes, the artist has the final say, unless I'm the one that's producing it. And if I'm producing it, then it's my say. I'll tell you what I want, and I'll tell you when it's good enough, and that's the way it is. But
what's the difference between you? What do you mean? You're the one producing it. Aren't you the one that produces it all the time, every time?
I'm the engineer. I'm the one that goes ahead, and there's two faces that I can put on. I can put on a recording engineer face, which is just making sure the artist comes in and they say, this is the song we've got. These are the number of instruments we got. This is how we want to lay it down. And I go, okay, bingo, bingo, and put it all together, and that's it. Okay. Producing is when I sort of assist the artist in their recording, and by saying that, it's like I make suggestions to them. Had you thought about trying it this way? The harmonies really aren't working at this spot, but they are working at this other spot. So I mean, I'm producing is kind of looking over the whole deal and kind of being the
so you're calling the shots.
Well, not so much the shots, but I am giving them the opportunity and trying to make sure that they fully understand everything that's available and what we can do and what they can't do and what they sound like and what they don't sound like. I always tell the artists when they come in, if you ask me, I will always tell you the truth. Now, sometimes the truth hurts. I mean, sometimes, things aren't working and you got to sit there and say, no, it's not working. This is, what do we got to do here? And a lot of them will say, well, what do we got to do? Okay. So I make the suggestions, and that's kind of the producer. I kind of, I'm the shaper of sound for the artist. Okay. I help them determine all that. That's the production side of it. So that's the two faces I put on. So.
Okay. So I've learned two things so far. And then, when you, now, do you only do CDs, or do you do, a format that allows them to stream it somewhere?
Yes. Well, by doing the CDs is one thing, but normally, depending upon if they're going to have it manufactured, then it's got to be mastered. And that's the next procedure after recording and mixing. Mastering is taking the 2-track product that we've got and making sure it's full, or, everything's tweaked out, and, you got it sounding as best you can, which can change a lot. I mean, I can make more bottom end to it so it sounds bigger and stuff like that. So, and depending upon if that goes to the manufacturer, that can go in a number of different ways. They can either take a CD, or they could take a thumb drive, or I could send them the files. And then, of course, if the artist wants, they can take the files on a thumb drive or a CD and turn them into MP3s, which that MP3s, I hate those because they just suck as far as sound wise, but that's anyway. That's what they can take and turn them into that, and they can go ahead and put them to Spotify, CD Baby, stuff like that. They can sell on. So yeah, I can do it any number of different ways how they want to be given to them. So
okay, so and if they do a CD and they have the cover work, for that and all of that, is that up to them to get that all done?
Of course, my portion is the audio side, and making sure that its sound is the way they want it to sound, and sounding as best we could possibly make them sound. And I've done my part. Now, sometimes the group asks me to help them with putting a cover on us, because I can kind of create covers here at the studio to a certain degree and put them in a jewel case and blah, blah, blah. But, it basically is up to the artist when they have them manufactured. They take care of the graphics, they take care of, how they want it listed, stuff like that. I make sure that all the songs are titled, all the songs are listed in the correct order they want them in, and that are timed out. And then my job is basically done from there. So
yeah.
That's
yeah. So what is your what's your feeling on, because there is a lot of studios that are popping up now, but a lot of people, a lot of artists are recording at home with a computer. What's your feelings on that?
Well, I've recording off of a laptop, recording at home can be really great, because I've had some artists bring in tracks that they've done at home and want me to mix them, or vice versa, something like that. But for the most part, it's not all that great, because first of all, you don't have a acoustically controlled environment, and the artist is trying to do a number of different things. They're trying to be the recording engineer, they're trying to be the artist, they're trying to be the producer, they're trying to put, sometimes it's just kind of overwhelming. On occasion, I have heard some really great stuff come out of the bedrooms. For the most part, it's pretty much I don't want to say garbage, but I want to say it could be a lot better done elsewise.
So just a lesser quality.
Right. The Tim Frazier thing that I gave you maybe a year or so ago, quite a bit of that was done. He'd recorded quite a bit of that on his own thing in his bedroom at home. And then he came over here and go, "What do you think?" And I'm going, "Well, can we change this?" And, I took all his tracks and moved them over to my machine. And then we started adding, and of course I mixed everything for him after that. But so, yeah, some things can be really great. Something I don't want to say that that's the wrong way to do it, but it's, it to get a good recording out of it is not as great a chance as if you came to a studio where things are a little more controlled environment, and you've got someone else worrying about other aspects of the procedure, and you as an artist just to worry about making sure that you're singing in tune, saying all the right words, making everything in time, and that's all part of that. So I'm not a big fan of home recording, and when someone says, "Oh, they've got a studio," they got a laptop. That's about it, Which, all well and good. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't want to make it sound like they're a bunch of idiots for doing it that way, but it's, you know, that it's a far cry from a studio as opposed to like what,
Yeah,
um,
because
you
you
know,
have an actual studio. You have this space
yes,
that's
yes,
the sound and everything is controlled.
right.
Um,
The
they're
rooms
on
have
the
all been tuned. You know, I've
yeah.
got a tracking room. I've got a separate area for the control room. I've got vocal booths. I've got things, you know, separate things off to the side that, you know, they don't have it. I mean, at home, it's totally different. But once again, let me go say I have heard some stuff come out of the home studio, you know, the laptops and stuff like that, that absolutely, I just sat there and blew me away going, geez, oh, Pete, this is great, you know. When Tim Frazier came over with his stuff, I was so excited about his stuff. I pleaded with him, please let me please let me help you with this, and let's take it to the next level. And of course, that's what we did, and there we are. So I
So
hope I
what
answered
is
your question.
you did? So what is your what was your if you care to share this, what was your biggest mistake in in recording? Your biggest, oh, I screwed that up.
Well, you know, in my business, you can become humble really quick because you know you're sitting there behind controlling everything, and then you make a little tiny mistake. The one that stands out in my head the most was back when I was at Golden Voice, and I was working as a second engineer over there, and we were doing the Illinois Country Opry that which came
Mm.
in every month or so over there to do some recordings. And so the engineer, as a second, I came in after the first engineer, the main engineer had set everything up and got everything going. And so I was there just to make sure the red button was pushed and we tracked everything. And that's basically it. Well, I had a guitar player that played one, you know, dynamite solo, and we went to play it back. And I'm going, oh, crap. You know, I said, I'm sorry, can you do
I
that again
forgot.
for me? You know, and you talk about somebody that was PO'd, you know, I mean,
I forgot to
so
hit record.
you know, so I went from here, like I told you before, to about that tiny. I felt about that tall, and I thought, well, okay. I remember one of my engineer friends that were when they were kind of helping me along learning the ropes. He said, like I said earlier, you're going to learn that you can become humble really quick in this business. And that day, I not only turned humble, but I went down from 6'5" to about 2 inches off the ground.
Yeah,
And
that would do it.
you know, but you know, you make mistakes throughout. You know, things just don't go right sometimes, and you know, you just kind of have to do it. But that's the one thing I think that really sticks out in my mind is,
You
you know,
never did it again.
no, I no. Well, I always tried to make sure. You know,
Yeah.
I have lost tracks before where, you know, I'm working in a group right now. It's called 13 Grit. They're a Southern group, or they're from Southern Illinois. They're kind of a Leonard Skinner type of group.
Mm.
And there was one track that we did, and for some reason, I lost this guy's solo, his guitar solo. And oh, it was, I mean, you talk about riding my butt, you know, yeah, well, you lost it. I said, oh, you can do better, and blah, blah, blah. You know, kind of kidding them along like that. But, well, they came back in. It was just last week they were back in here again. And lo and behold, when we got to that song, because of the tracks that I've got, really, I've got 24 tracks that I have to work with, okay? But I really have 192 tracks that I can play with, meaning that with each one of those separate tracks, I've got 7 more tracks. So I can record a guitar solo 4 or 5 times on, you know, different tracks. And then I can cut and paste and put, you know, build it together. Out of the 5 tracks, I can make a great sounding, you know, lead guitar track or what have you. Or as in this case, you know, we were sitting there and I go, wait a minute. I said, what the hell's this? He goes, what do you mean? I said, I played it for him. He goes, that's the track. Where'd you find that out? You lost it before. And I go, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I said, I found, but those are the things that happen all the time. So, I mean, things can go wrong. Things can get overlooked. Um, you
That's
try to
part of
make
it.
sure that you got everything covered. You try to make sure you got all your I's dotted and T's are crossed when you're doing the tracking. And if sometimes when you get into the mixing mode, there have been times when we've realized that, hey, we got a problem here, and I got to call whoever back in to do another overdub or something like that, because we got tracks. I don't need the whole group anymore.
Yeah.
Now
Wow.
I could just call in whoever,
You could just have that one.
that one track, or whether it be a guitar or a vocal or keyboard or whatever it is. So anyway, there you go.
I did an entire podcast once and forgot to hit record.
well, join the club, girl.
Uh-huh. I'd never done that again since, but
No,
we had to
try not to.
we had to
I mean,
redo the entire podcast. I was like, well, for God's sake, I forgot to hit record. So here we go again.
that's
Yeah.
tough. As in with that guy over Golden Voice that night. I mean, he did play a great guitar solo, but then if I can't, because these guitar players never play the same damn thing twice. Okay, it's always something. Excuse me, I didn't mean to swear. But they never play the same thing twice or exactly the same way. And he liked, what he did. But if I didn't have the red button, I was hearing it when he was, doing it. Because I just didn't, so you got to make sure you press the damn red button. That's the
Red button's important, folks.
kind of, yes, it is. It's kind of the major thing there. So
That's hilarious. I'm sure it wasn't hilarious then, but it is.
Oh, it wasn't. No, it's like I
It,
said.
it shows that you are fallible. You are.
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely. I've made several mistakes. I've done some real clunkers in my life too. I mean, I've done some stuff that I can't tell you the times I'll be mixing something out there and think, boy, I've got it. I've really got it. I'll pack shut everything down and go in and have dinner, or have a drink, or go to bed, or what have you. Come back the next morning and go and play it back and go, what the hell were you thinking? This isn't right. So you got to go in there and you start all over again. So
now the way I can relate to that is, editing or working with a photo session, and then thinking, okay, yeah, this is the style I want. This is what I'm looking for. Doing them, and then turning in for the night or whatever, and then the next day looking at them, getting ready to deliver them, going, God, no.
Yeah,
No,
right. Yeah.
no.
You sit there
I don't
and
know
you go,
what last night was, but this is not what I'm
planet
gonna.
I was on when I mixed
Yeah,
it.
I don't know what I was thinking, but so yeah, it happens. I think in every profession.
Sure.
That
That's the nice thing about here, though, because it's just down the hallway. I mean, I walk out of the house. Of course, the house it's all connected. You've seen it all. You know how it's set up. I just walk down the hallway and go into the studio, and it's right there. So I mean, it's not like I've got to get in the car and drive. I had 309. That was another. The studio was downtown. Okay, I mean, it was downtown Danville, or part of kind of the east side anyway. And I lived probably a mile or two away from that. So getting to the studio was getting in the car, driving down there, that type of thing.
Why was that named 30? Why was that named 309 and this is named 401?
The address.
I kind of thought so, but
it was the address. It was 309 College Street, and this is 401. Now, ironically enough, the house just north of us is 3.
I'm sorry, you cut out. What?
I'm sorry, their address is 309. I live at 401. So I mean,
that's ironic.
I can't get rid of 309, but it was 309 was a great studio for 5 years, and we did a ton of stuff. I mean, a ton of stuff, everything from A to Z. And it was, but anyway, and
It's great that you have space now in your home. So my next question is, where currently, how do you get artists to come to your studio? I mean, how do you generate that business?
well, a lot of listening to what's going on. Thanks to you and Zach for doing what you do for the local scene, uh, talking about different bands that I've never heard of. I mean, I've called you many times and go, who's this? Tell me
Mhm.
about this band,
You
and
have done that a lot. Yeah.
Catching Hickory is
Mhm.
one of the examples that, I called when I saw what you did with them on their first you did video for
That
them.
song. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I got that.
Faces.
I heard that and you told me who they were. And so I made contact. A lot of times it's just seeing somebody out. A lot of it is word of mouth, where someone has heard something that I've done. They've heard the stuff on the radio, or, they've heard or they've talked to an artist that's been down here and got a product and they play it for them and they go, where'd you do that at? So that's how I generate a lot of it like that. Going to I'm going to start doing more of these open mic sessions that Cliff
Mm-hmm.
Stoker does and stuff. Those are very, you know, that's eye opener stuff. You meet a lot of people that way. Um, Going to different events like the one at Villa Grove when they had the thing in that little area that the little
Yeah, that little event center
the first
area.
time there was different bands there, and I got the box cars or something like that. I forget.
Boxcar Graffiti. Uh,
Yeah.
they just came out with a new single and it is their best yet. I
Really,
love,
yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah, I
I
I
love
haven't had the
this.
pleasure to do them, but that's how
Well,
we
they're doing,
that's how I meet people and stuff like that. Um, like I say, I have to give a lot of credit to you because of the things that you've talked about, and and I, like you said earlier, I've called you many times and going, hey, tell me about this band. What are they? What do they do? And how, what do you think of them? And blah blah blah. And who's their main guy? And how can I get a hold of them? And and just goes from there. So it's a number of different ways, but I must say probably word of mouth is probably the best means of advertising, because you've got someone else saying, hey, if you want something that sounds really good, you better go to 401, or
so are you finding that since your location is in Georgetown, um, is that a struggle or no?
no,
I
no,
like
not.
now, like people will drive, you know,
The artist, if they're really interested and if they're a true artist and they want to get something done, then if they've got to drive a half hour or something like that. I mean, all these guys that I talked about from Champaign, they all drive. Susan Williams, God bless her, she lives all the way up around
right.
Chicago.
Yeah,
You
she
know,
used to live here, but yes, she
right,
does.
right. She comes down here. Of course, when it's kind of a deal when her band plays in the area, they usually end up staying here at the house. And usually, if it's a Friday night, they'll do the Friday night gig, come back, we'll sit around the table, talk, and go to wee hours of the morning. And then the next day, uh, if she's up to it, we do some recording in the studio for a bit. And then she goes and does her other gig at Saturday evening and stuff like that. But I mean, it's, a lot of times I've got the whole band. I mean, got a guy sleeping out on the couch, and guy upstairs, or both of them upstairs,
That's
Susan and
great.
Carol upstairs, and
Yeah.
it's kind of it's and with a 13 grit, they're from, like I say, Southern Illinois. So when they come up, a lot of times instead of get a hotel room or something like that, we'll offer them you can stay here. And of course, Liz is a great cook and she cooks up something for them. And, we just, it just makes it kind of a more of a, it's easier on them. They feel a lot more comfortable. And that's my whole purpose right off the bat, is to make sure the artist is comfortable, because if they aren't, it's going to reflect
They're not
in
going to
their
do
sound.
good. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
you're right. Exactly.
well, Susan, first of all, I really need to do a podcast with her.
Oh, you
Um,
should.
she Susan is just, there are really no words. I mean, if you've heard her, if you went and seen her, I forget sometimes, because I hadn't seen her in a while, and she was at the Blues Fest this
Yeah,
last
yeah,
summer.
yeah.
And boy, I showed up, and they had just started, and I was just like, I don't even want to. I did pictures and I did a video,
Mhm.
but I'm like, I don't even want to do this right now, because I want to really experience this, because I forgot how damn good she is.
Well,
She's
she's kind of a cross between Janis Joplin and who's the redheaded gal? Um, um, oh shoot, I can't think of her name. Guitar player, Bonnie Raitt. She's kind of a
oh
she's
God, yeah.
kind of a cross in between. When I first met Susan, I saw her down in Danville when they were playing at the Sounds, or the Summer Sounds. They've got that little thing,
Yeah.
and she was down there, and she was with Todd Todd Kester and Brian Christman and her. They played, and of course Liz and I were sitting there, and I'd never met Susan before, and they did the song called Dreams by Fleetwood Mac.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I just sat there and thought, oh my
Just
God, I
yes.
somehow, some way, I've got to work with this gal, because I said, she is good. So I introduced myself and blah, blah, blah. And it took a little bit of courtsing, but I finally got her to come in one time it was just Todd. This is before her blues band.
Yeah,
And
before the right.
she did,
Yeah.
we did
The
7
Susan
tracks.
band is back
Yeah,
then.
but it was just Todd Kester, who's a
Yeah.
fantastic guitar player. Fantastic. Before he moved away, he was my go-to guy all the time. But it was him and Brian Christman, and of course Susan. And I've got a track of Dreams that, I mean, it's good. It's real good, of Susan Williams. We also did the other one called not Rihanna. I think is that
Rihanna? Yeah, Rihanna. I think, yeah. Yeah.
Did one of those. Um, there were a couple other tunes in there. I mean, that was her demo CD, that the first time she came in and I got to work with her. And then of course after that, it just clicked between Susan and I. I mean, I don't know what it was, but it just clicked. It's kind of like Allison. I don't know why it worked so well with Allison, why she stayed with me for the couple years that she did. I mean, when I was recording Allison, she was at my studio almost as much as I was. And hell, I owned the place. Okay. I mean, that's how she was there constantly doing something. And it just clicked. I have these times when I just click with a certain artist. And Susan is another one of those that it's just, I kind of know I can read her mind sort of, and she knows where I'm going, and she trusts me and I trust her. And, we
Yeah.
end up and
I've got the CD recorded with her. I've got it right here.
the demo, or you got the demo CD or the
the CD, the actual.
Oh, the CD, the blues.
Yeah.
I ought to get that demo to you where you got because Dreams is, I mean, that's a great, and she's such a great artist. I mean, and the fact that we've got tracks. Okay, when we did that song, she sang the lead vocal. She also sang 3 backups, and so did Todd. So I've really got 5 or 6 singers on the song, and it's just her and Todd. And that's the thing about the tracks that, excuse me, that when you've got all that, I can blend it all together. Next thing you know, it's like Allison. She came in one night, and it was all she came in without her fiddle. I go, "What are we going to do tonight, Al?" She goes, "A cappella," and she sang this Gregorian chant. Now it was, mind you, only had 8 tracks, so I had to be kind of clever in how I did it. I can turn 8 tracks into 24 if I'm careful. I mean, by copying, 6 of them, boiling the 6 down to 2, and then taking those 4 that I've got, kind of building like that. I can do that a couple times with the tape, but then after a while, it gets to, when you're making a copy of a copy of a copy,
Yeah.
it starts to
Lose
it's
it.
the same way with audio, but she's it was a Gregorian chant, and when I got done, there was like 12 or 15 Alison Krauses singing this beautiful Gregorian chant. And so, I mean, it's things like that just pop up, and you just sit there and you're amazed of artists come in, and there was a little girl from Tilton. Her name is Olivia Yates, and she called up one summer, and she was 12 years old, calls up and says, "Do you have a recording studio? And, can you do some recording for me?" And I said, "Is your mother there? Let me talk to your mom, okay?" And, and she got on. I said, "Okay, is this for real or what's going on here?" She goes, "No, it's for real. She needs." So this little 12-year-old came in, skinny little kid, skinny little girl, comes in. She starts singing, and Terry, my jaw almost hit the console when I'm sitting there going, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I mean, what was coming from this 12-year-old was coming. She was singing with more feeling and more, guts than some, older artists that I've worked with. And I turn around to her mom and I go, "This isn't supposed to be happening." And she goes, "What do you mean?" And I go, "She's not supposed to be able to sing like it. She's only 12, I worked with her until she was 21.
Oh, wow.
And we did
What is she doing now?
she's out in California now. And she's
Wow.
she's on a hiatus with the music and stuff, but her last recordings she did out there, she sent me the tracks and told me, this is who's all on it. And I'm reading down the list, and the guitar player for Rush, I
Wow.
can't think. All of a
I don't
sudden,
know.
I'm going, this is the guitar player from Rush. I said, "Are you kidding me, girl?" I said, "You got him on there?" And, so, I mean, but certain artists just click, and it's just one of those deals. So it's a privilege and an honor that I can be a part of all of that. And taking an artist to where when they walk in and when they walk out, that I want them to feel like, "Holy cow, I've never sounded that good before, and I sounded the best I've ever." I want them to walk out like that. And if it's not that way, they're not walking out the door, because it's not only their name on it, but my name's on there as well. And I don't want something to leave here that sounds like pure, SHIT. And they say, "Oh yeah, Rick Sadowski did that for me," and I'm going, no, no. Much
Yeah.
like what, I'm sure you've had the same experience sometimes with some of your photos.
Yeah. Yep.
It's, sometimes, and you just don't want to let something go out the door because you have a reputation as well. So
Yeah. So photography is a different bird, because some people, they don't care. Like I did just quick, for instance, I did this photo session. I wasn't happy with this certain I wasn't happy with the certain positioning and the composition. I was like, no, that's not going to be a part of it. But they knew I took the photo. They know every single photo you take.
Oh yeah, of course.
As well as how many, and so they were like, "Well, where's that one photo?" And I'm like, I really didn't care for it. I should have used a different lens. I should have
sure.
been, well, but they were like, "No, we want," so I gave it to them. I'm like, "Okay," and what are you going to do? They wanted it. So what are you going to do? And
Well,
that's,
it's the same way with me as well. You said, "Well, I should have used a different lens, or I should have had them in this, position or that position." Well, I should have used a different microphone. I should have had this much gain on them as opposed to that much. I should have had a little more compression on it. I mean, hindsight's always 20/20.
Always. Um,
And,
and I just want to say, since we were talking about Susan, her current band is now Susan Williams and the Right Groove, and that's
Mhm.
WRIGHT. So
Yeah,
you all check them out on Facebook, and also when Susan is in our area, she's always on our event list. Make sure that you go and see her. Incredible, incredible, incredible
please,
talented artists that
please
we
do.
have
Please.
among many, many talented
There,
artists that
there's
we
a
have.
lot of artists, a lot of, as we've talked before, there is a lot of great local artists in the Champaign-Urbana area, which, let's say it covers a 50-mile radius of that. And
Yes.
there's a lot of great artists out there that have made it. REO, Head East,
Allison Krauss,
Allison Krauss, all that. But yet
Dan Fogelberg.
there
Just,
there
yeah.
are there are still a lot of artists out there that are new artists that are up and coming. Um, like I say, Colton Taylor, Dave Woodridge.
Woolridge.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Woolridge. Yeah, yeah. He's another great artist from around here that's got a lot of potential, I think.
The thing with David is, what people need to pay attention to. I swear, people pay attention to when a singer-songwriter puts a song out there. Check those lyrics, man, because they have some really depthy, really cool, major lyrics. Like, they're not playing when it comes to lyrics. They're just
Oh yeah,
they're the
oh yeah.
best.
That's a very important part of it. Uh, Lyric, and then how the melody flows with everything, and there's a lot of components that are involved in a finished product of a song that's out there on the radio. And it's not
Yeah.
only, just like you said, it's lyrics are a great portion of it. How they played it, how it sounds, uh, all these things come into play to make it a great piece of work.
Yeah.
And that's something they
So,
can be very proud of. Anyway,
yeah. And so while we're at it, Homegrown KIO plays uh the music from artists that derived from Champaign-Urbana.
yes,
Um, Thankfully, they've got some recorded versions. Thankfully to you. Thankfully
there's
to the
a lot of
people
people that have given them stuff.
Champaign-Urbana who have recorded these, and they even have some live recordings, which
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
sounds fantastic. It's so
Some
good.
of them I sit there and can't believe, done it Mabel's, 25, 30 years ago.
Oh
And I'm
my
sitting
God,
there
I
going,
know.
who in the hell did that? And how did,
Who
I
did
mean,
that live recording?
some of them sound really great. Some of them sound like they shouldn't be played.
It should
Okay.
be, yeah. Well,
But
so thank God for all of that, because that makes that show happen. And we also get a chance to hear our live music community in the past. And
right, exactly.
that's so special. So I want to thank LA Fredrickson and
Oh,
David Lee for
Dave,
hosting that, bringing that show forth. We are a sponsor of that show, and they sponsor this podcast. So we're very,
sure.
very grateful. It's a great team.
That's that's
But
a that's a great thing that we've got something like that locally that they do for the community, for the
yes,
local artists. I mean, kudos to them, because that's a big thing.
it's
I
an
mean, that's
exciting show. It's because you get to hear this music that that you either heard when you were out going to live music,
yeah,
because at our age, that's when I was out back in the
mhm,
70s
sure.
and 80s, and
Don't date
not
yourself there,
not the
girl.
90s, but 70s and 80s. I don't care. I am, as old as I am,
Yeah,
but I
right.
was there during that really tremendous live local music
Oh,
community that we had. That's what I fell in love with live music back then.
yeah.
So and
And
then
then they play some of the newer stuff too, the newer artists that are out
yeah,
there.
they'll play some current, but let me just say this. Please, please, please do not send them a Spotify list. Send them an MP3 of your music to their email. Simple as that. Don't send them anything else. MP3, please. And they'll play your music at some point on one of their shows, but it's every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Now,
Yeah,
Rick, what
yes.
is your where do you think you're gonna like ever retire from this, or do you think not until you're dead?
Um, there have been several times I thought I retired when piece of equipment craps out on me and I'm
I
going,
know I
oh,
got
geez.
that message.
You
I
know,
think
I
I'm
mean,
done.
because this stuff is not cheap.
No,
I'm playing with. No, I hope that I can go as long as I can, and that Liz buries me underneath the console, and that's about put me there, and
I mean,
I'll be fine with it.
somebody needs to write a song about that.
Well, maybe I talked. Maybe you could tell one of your people
Yeah,
that
you
you
need to write a song about. I do want to give a shout out to your wife Elizabeth,
uh,
because I know that she loves live music.
oh
She's
yeah.
a sweet, sweet, sweet person, and I know that without her, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. She's a
No,
huge.
no, she's a very big factor in Studio 401. I mean, if it wasn't for her, a lot of times I couldn't do the things that I do. And over the last couple of years, because of the health issues that I've experienced with the COVID and with the blood clots and stuff like that, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here to be able to keep going with the studio. So
Yeah,
she's a big sponsor of what I do and is always behind me 100%. And you're right. I owe just about everything to her because she's the one that pushes me when I'm down or something like that. When something's gone wrong and I think, oh my God, this is it. I've got to shut the studio down because whatever, it's her that's kicking me in the butt going, no, you're not. And you'll figure something out. Get back out there and try to work on something.
yeah, and we all need that. And it's so great that
Well,
you have that right there. And then she's, I mean, because this is in your home.
yeah.
It's not the main part of your home. I mean,
Oh
you've
no.
got a space for specifically for
Yeah.
the studio,
Yeah.
but yeah, she's like
Well,
super,
she's a
super.
big fact. Let's put it this way.
She's
She's a very big factor in Studio 401. So, and if it
yeah,
wasn't for her, a lot of the stuff couldn't get to the point it's gotten.
yeah,
So
and
thank you, Elizabeth, for everything.
yeah, Elizabeth, we love you.
Great cook.
And then you also you had to do this comeback because you did literally almost die.
Yeah.
Um, but I just want to note that you look really healthy and fantastic, and that is such a
Thank you.
relief. 'Cause we did
Well,
almost, lose you.
yeah, well, it was this last deal was, I didn't, you know, there was 21 days in the ICU and next 30 days at Hawthorne for rehabilitation to learn how to walk again. But it was like I was doing King's Highway CD at that time,
Oh,
and
that's
I
right.
remember, they came up and saw me, and they said, hey Rick, we may have to, start this thing, over again or something like that. I'm going, no way. I said, there is no way in hell we're doing. I'll be out of here. Just give me a couple days. And the first thing I did when I got home that Saturday from the hospital, because they kicked me out. I mean, I spent all the time I could up there. Came home and I was in a walker and everything. The first thing I did was make my butt right out to out to the studio, and I started working on Kings Highway. And that's when I called them back up and I said, okay, I'm home. Let's finish this thing up. Let's go. Big, and that's
Wow.
so that's those.
And you did, and it's one of my favorites.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun doing that. The guys were really fun. Um, there are some bands that are just plain fun to work with. Like I said earlier, Joe Aslan, he's a great artist. I did the CD form for the what was it, the Moonlight Ramblers or something like that.
Yes. Joe Aslan, and I've got that one too.
That's the one where he made the video with the car,
With the car, yes.
had the Ford, anyway. He's one of them. Spectrum is another great group that I had. I mean, certain groups I just click with, and they click with me, and they're just, Colton Taylor was another. I mean, all Andy Duncanson was probably one of the most fun things I did with him. And I wanted to do Kilbourne Alley so damn bad. And I had him over here that night when we did it, and that's when the machine crapped out on me. And so the session went down, and I couldn't complete it. And I thought, oh my God, I said, I got to make this up to you somehow, some way. And that's when I thought I was done for. And it was one of those moments where, you know, I tried every trick in the book for the next 2 weeks trying to figure something out. And then finally just threw my hands up in the air and said, oh, to hell with it, I'm done, you know. And I remember one night I was laying in bed and I wake up at 2:00 in the morning. I'm going, wait a minute. You hadn't thought about one more, this, you never thought about trying this, you know? And so the next morning I fly out the studio and try this fix that I came to me in the middle of the night. Lo and behold, I got it up and running. And I'm sitting
Thank
there and
God.
Liz comes out and I go, hey, listen to this. And so I'm, you know, all of a sudden the machine's back on and I'm working again. And but it's, you know, it's, yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I'm sure, you know, there's things like that happen to you too. I mean, you know, certain pieces of
Oh
equipment.
yeah, I've had cameras just go, we're done.
Right,
Oh,
right.
okay.
And you're in the middle of something, okay? You're in the middle of something with that piece
and
of
you know
equipment.
the cost of having to get another one. It's just like, I can't do that right now. It's so, yeah, I know. I remember you going through that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I think we'll start to wrap this up. So you're in it to win.
Terry, I want to say one thing. I really want to thank you for all that you do, you and Zach, for all that you're doing for the local scene around here. I mean, if we didn't have CU bands and fans going, you know, I'm sure there'd still be something where people could, you know, kind of figure out what's going on, but it's not near the professionalism that you and Zach put into it and what you do and how you've hooked up with the boys at WKIO, LA, or Larry and David, and doing that. I mean,
yeah, it was my pleasure when they asked, would we be a part? Could they be a part of, you know, the podcasting?
I was so happy when they did that because it kind of made sense. You know, you deal with the local scene, and that's what Homegrown's all about. It's about the local scene, and I think that they're playing as much as they can of the local scene. So
yeah, they're doing what they can do, and that's
sure. Oh yeah, they're you know, radio's kind of a funny media.
It is. It's
know,
like, you know, it's not like, you know, I mean, I own my camera and I own, you know, what I can go do, and I say what I can, you know, go take photos up or whatever. And you own your own studio, and who comes in there, it's like, that's on you. Now they're part of WKIO Classic Hits 107.9 FM. So they have to abide by some radio restrictions and rules. And that's just, it is. But the beauty of it is it's broadcast across the world.
Oh, that's
so
something.
There's the beauty.
That's something, you know. I mean, somebody in, you know, way out in, you know, in Egypt somewhere is listening to something here.
Yeah, they can hear. Yeah, and that's so they're, you know, so they've got this global reach from a radio station, and that's important. So yeah, of course they've got to have, you know, they can't play certain things and they can't do certain things. And
well, it's radio. They have certain restrictions,
and they've got 1 hour, and they use that hour up. It's like from 7 to 8. Boom, that's it. They start right at 7. They end right at 8. There's no
they're getting better. I mean, we're getting 12 and 13 tracks out of them sometimes. You know, you know. And I remember in the very beginning, it wasn't that. Maybe they got 10. You know, and I'm going, okay, we got to get. You know, there's got to be more on there. Just that.
And I know you're a huge supporter of them as well. So we might as well just say on this podcast, since both of us are extremely supportive of Homegrown KIO. So if anyone does have recorded music from the past, MP3 format that thing, man, and send it to them in email. It's
well, they'll take a CD as well, but they prefer it in
the MP3.
Yeah, the MP3s are better for them.
But no, you know, Apple Music or Amazon or anything. They can't do that.
MP3s are so squashed anyway. They're, you know, it's kind of anything I give them the CD, okay, because they know I just hate MP3s to be,
Right.
and they allow me to give them the CDs, and then they'll transfer it to whatever medium they want to put it in. But I'm just not a big fan of MP3s.
Yeah, but they're,
It's
they're the perfect host for this. They've got knowledge. They've created this show, and I think all our current musicians really need to listen to it, because I think it's kind of how this music scene has derived from back then to now to what it is now. So
absolutely.
so that
You're
being said,
spot on.
yeah, it's been awesome having you on the podcast. Thank you so much for having.
Thank you once again. Thank you, and you and Zach for doing what you're doing. So thank you.
And that's
Thanks for allowing me to be here.
Studio 401k recording in Georgetown, Illinois. And this is Rick Sadowski. I will have a link and a phone number attached to this podcast so that you know how to contact him. Should you want some your music recorded and you want to do this in a recording studio, we would highly suggest him. He's good. I've heard a lot of stuff that he's recorded, and he has definitely worked with a lot of artists in our local area. So thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you very much. Been a pleasure.